Welcome everyone to the Timeout Podcast. I am your host CJ. I am with
the one, the only, the Don, DC David Connor. You know what I'm saying? So you feel me? Let's go.
you shortened that title. Right, so today we're going to go over the week like we usually do, go over our players of the week and our teams of the week. But we're also going to go on, there's a lot of things that's been happening. The Heat's westing up. The West is heating up. Steph Curry is now second on the all-time scoring list for 3-pointers. Yep. Is Colin Sexton legit? And what's wrong with the Brooklyn Nets? Because they haven't been very good this week, have they?
No, they haven't.
No. So we'll start off with a weekly roundup. So on Sunday we've got a few games. So New Orleans Pelicans beat Sacramento Kings. Zion did an amazing poster. De'Aaron Fox scored a career high 43 points with 13 assists. Zion had 31 points. He only missed 2 shots that game.
Wow.
He only missed 2 shots. Ingram had 22. Then we had the LA Clippers beating Indiana Pacers. LeVert is out indefinitely because of a mass found on his kidney. Yeah. From that trade. You know how badly they must have wanted a trade because the medical staff found that and they were like, no, let's carry on. We'll keep this trade going. So he's out indefinitely, although I think he played on later in the week. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he did, actually. But 3 LA players scored 20 points, including PG, Luke Kennard, and Marcus. Is it Markeith or Marcus on the LA Clippers?
Markeith.
One of the Morris twins scored 20. Not Kawhi, though. He scored 17, but he didn't need to, obviously. Chicago ended up beating Dallas. They didn't just beat them, they blew them out. Despite Luka Doncic's triple-double of 36 points, 15 assists, and 16 rebounds. Porzingis also had 20, so it's not like their stars didn't perform this game. And even to add fuel to the fire, Zach LaVine, Chicago Bulls' best player, he scored 10 points. He was 1 from 8. From 3, I think it was. However, Lauri Markkanen scored 29. It was more of a team effort. After the game, Luka Doncic blamed himself. He said he was being too selfish. Probably talk about that a little later. Mm-hmm. Denver versus Utah. Utah Jazz ended up beating Denver. Jokic had 35 with 9 assists and 14 rebounds. Murray had 30. But the Jazz pulled out with the W late in the fourth. Jordan Clarkson scored 23 points. Donovan Mitchell scored 16. 6 Jazz players in double digits. On that last play, there was a play. They left Gobert wide open. Like they just left him in the middle of the paint.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. It's bad late game defending. Bad.
Yeah.
Out of a timeout. It's ridiculous. You shouldn't be doing that. You should have your sets. Come out of timeout. You should know exactly what you need to do. You don't leave the tallest guy on the court wide open.
In the paint.
You don't do that. Then we move on to Monday, where we had the LA Lakers against the Golden State Warriors. The Lakers blew a 19-point lead. LeBron had 19 points. AD had 17 points and 17 rebounds. So not very productive games for them. But Dennis Schroeder ended up with 25 points. Steph Curry was 26. He had 19 of his 26 in the second half. In the fourth quarter, it was the Lakers were outscored by about, I think it was 13 points in the last quarter. LeBron missed a game winner too. So there's that, which everyone will latch on to because LeBron apparently has this moniker of being a choker, despite the fact that he is one of the best performing players within the last 2 or so minutes of a game. So
yeah, but yeah, I think.
Then we had the. Oh, go on, sorry.
Yeah, carry on. It's fine.
Then we had the much anticipated Brooklyn versus Milwaukee. Now this is probably like a preview of the Eastern Conference Finals if you're an optimistic Brooklyn fan. KD hit a game winner. You had Harden with 34 points, 12 assists. KD with 30 points. So I think this is the last game with just Harden and KD. So they're playing well together.
Yep.
I have no idea how that factors in. No, none at all without the rest of the week. Giannis had 34, Middleton had 25, and Drew had 22. So it's like a very good game, that one was.
Yeah, that was a game.
Houston against Chicago. I believe Chicago won that. Oladipo had a debut of 32 points, but Levine had 33 points. All Chicago starters had 10-plus points and 2 bench players. Very much a team effort. Oladipo might have got 32 points, but he also had 7 turnovers on his debut. You had LA versus Milwaukee. LA made out with a win. LeBron had 34 points. He scored some clutch deep threes. Season high, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, no, that's Thursday. Sorry, that's Thursday. I got it wrong.
Oh.
We've got Utah versus New Orleans Pelicans. That win marked Utah having a 6-game win streak. Zion had 32 points, but Donovan Mitchell had 28. We also on Tuesday we had Denver versus OKC. Denver beat them behind Jokic's 27, and Murray went 0 from 3
Speaking of, did you see the Pelicans Utah game?
Say that again.
Did you see how well the Pelicans started?
Yeah, they started off really well. They've been doing that all season.
They scored 43 points.
They start off and then, they do that, and then they can't match it later on. They can't keep it up. They haven't got. I don't know whether it's stamina or it's something mentally, but they're just not together in that last quarter.
It was 43-31 in the first quarter, and then Utah beat them by like 13 in the second quarter, 7 in the third, and 3 in the fourth. Like, I was like, I haven't watched Pelicans this season. I thought these look good, and then the second quarter started, they just stopped playing. I was like, oh no, this is. I know I can see why they are in the conference.
That's one of the things with teams. It's so there's stages of teamwork. So there's like forming, norming, performing, and storming. I don't know if I got those in the right order, but basically, they're in like a feeling out period where they're trying to normalize how they're with each other and actually start to perform. And it's very common for teams that are becoming teams to not perform late in games. Like, they go early, they really go off to a good start, and then they just start to fizzle out. But that was quick. Second quarter, that was quick.
Mm-hmm.
It used to happen to the big three, Miami Heat back in like 2011. It used to happen a lot. I remember it like a Vietnam flashback. Wednesday. Moving on to Wednesday, we had probably one of the games of the week. Brooklyn versus Cleveland. Cleveland won behind Colin Sexton's career high 42 points. It was a double OT special. Kyrie's first game back, he scored 37 points. KD also had 37. He had 12 rebounds and 8 assists as well. And James Harden had a triple-double of 21 points, so he stopped scoring a little, probably to help Kyrie score a bit more. 10 rebounds and 12 assists. It's also worth noting that Sexton scored 20 straight points for Cleveland at one point. And both Kyrie and KD missed clutch shots to possibly tie or win the game.
Yeah.
So there's that. We won't go on to that just yet, though, because there's another game.
We've got a lot more to talk about,
Then we got Philly versus Boston, Embiid with 42. There wasn't any Tatum still. He's still out. But Marcus Smart had 25 and Brown had 26. The LA Clippers beat the Sacramento Kings. Kawhi had 32 points and 6 steals. He's got to use those big hands somehow. Bill Claus.
The claw.
Paul George had 19 points but 12 assists. Much more of a facilitator this game. This was number 5 of their win streak. Then we had Golden State Warriors versus San Antonio Spurs. Golden State Warriors won with 20 behind 26 points from Curry and 20 points from Wiseman. He's doing really well in his rookie season. He did really well this week, although he did cause a confusion. Not last night. I think it was Friday night. He caused a confusion, but we'll go through that when we reach it. Minnesota versus Orlando. Cole Anthony, the rookie, hit a game winner. He shot up people's rookie boards now because of that. I mean, he was a decent rookie anyway, but like he shot up right after hitting a game winner. Right, now we're on Thursday. So we got LA versus Milwaukee. Behind LeBron, obviously, scored his season high of 34 points, which is, I suppose it makes sense. The season's new-ish now. Yeah. We're like an eighth of the way through, a bit more than that. No, probably about an eighth now because the season's shorter this season. Yeah. But he hit some clutch deep threes. Then here it is. We had Golden State versus New York Knicks. Then New York Knicks beat this one, but it's worth noting that Draymond Green was ejected for yelling at his own teammate.
Yeah, that was the weirdest call.
He was yelling at Wiseman. It's not the weirdest call I have ever seen because it's not the weirdest call I've ever seen, but it's one of them.
It's top.
So
the way he got ejected, everyone was just standing there and like, what has he done? I actually found out why he was ejected like 6 minutes later.
Yep.
It was funny watching everyone stand there going, well, what could he have done wrong? But yeah, shouting at his own
what could he have done wrong? Everyone knows Draymond, even including the referees. Like, he has a go at everyone. Like, maybe I don't really. He does bark at the referees, but I don't think not to my memory has he been ejected for barking at the referee. He's been ejected for many other things, like kicking people in the balls, or not ejected for kicking people in the balls. But he's very vocal. He's a very vocal leader. Golden State have been playing a lot better with him, especially on the defensive end. He was yelling at his rookie, which happens. Yeah. Draymond's going to yell at a first year for making mistakes because he doesn't want to see them making those mistakes. The rest must have took it personally, thought it was against them, and ejected him for it. Yeah. Because it was his second technical. So he had to get ejected. Steph Curry scored 30 points. RJ Barrett for the Knicks had 28. Knicks definitely took advantage of no Dre. But it's worth noting that the NBA later rescinded the ejection. So Draymond won't get any repercussions that lead from getting a technical foul or an ejection. Just the one technical that he actually got. I will add up to a later thing, which I will explain next week. Utah versus New Orleans Pelicans. This was game number 7 on Utah's win streak. Donovan Mitchell, 36. Mike Conley, 20. Zion had 27 for New Orleans and 23 from Ingram. Again, Utah win and Pelicans lose. Again, they're not doing well this week. Then we have the much anticipated rematch between Cleveland and Brooklyn. The Cavs won again. This time Sexton only had 25 points but 9 assists. Kyrie had 38 points. There was no KD this time. 6 Cavs players were at least 10 points. And then Kyrie made an IG post after the loss. What was the actual IG post? He was saying something like, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day we're gonna be where we need to be.
Sorry, I think I'm making mute. He said that it doesn't matter. All this talking now doesn't matter because when it comes to the time, they're going to be where the best of the best play. Obviously, at that point, it's very in NBA Finals, NBA Conference Finals.
Yeah, basically saying that we're going to win when it matters, playoffs and the NBA Finals. But yeah, we'll see. Then we had Atlanta versus Minnesota. Capella had a triple double with blocks. Very rare triple double. but he got a triple-double. 13 points, 19 rebounds, and 10 blocks. Trae Young had 43. The LA Clippers beat the OKC. Kawhi and Paul George combined for 60. This is game number 6 on their win streak. But OKC, Shea scored 30. Then you had Philly versus Boston. Brown had 42, but it just wasn't enough against Embiid's 38. Simmons had a very clutch fourth. He was 11 of 15 in the fourth. 11 of his 15 points came in the fourth quarter. Good stuff. He's been very aggressive lately. He's been very good. Phoenix lost to Denver. Jokic had 31 points. Booker had 31, and Ayton had 27. Nothing really to note there. And then last night, the LA Lakers beat the Chicago Bulls. Lakers are now 9-0 on the road. AD had 37 points, and LeBron had 17. Yep. Golden State Warriors versus Utah. This was the game where Steph Curry ended up passing Reggie Miller on the all-time three-point scoring list, making it to second. But unfortunately, Utah would rain on that parade and win the game, making it an 8-game win streak. Miami versus Brooklyn. Bam scored a career high of 41 points. Nets managed to hold on late, though, despite a late push. Behind KD's 31, Kyrie's 28, and Harden only had 12 points, but 7 rebounds and 11 assists. And then Philly versus Detroit, Embiid scored 33, Simmons scored 20, which is where I'd expect him to start scoring. And then Dallas versus Houston, you had Houston beating Dallas behind Cousins 28 points, which is, retro Cousins. Gordon at 33 and Luka Doncic at 26. Again, Dallas lose. I don't know whether that's a result of Luka Doncic's talking about him being selfish.
Mistake. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big mistake. So let's talk about what's happened this week. So, as we know, Davian, the West is heating up. So LA are top at 13-4. Then Jazz and LA Clippers are behind them at 12-4 each. The LA Lakers, notable stat is that they're 9-0 away. They're unbeaten on the road. And the Jazz are on an 8-game win streak, and the LA Clippers are on a 6-game win streak. None of them, funnily enough, are all that good at scoring. Well, I say they're not all that good. They're pretty decent. Like, LA Clippers is the best at 6th, and then you got LA Lakers at 8th, and then Utah 11th. Where they're really making their mark is on the defensive end. Because, hold on. Efficiency. Because LA Clippers are number 1, Utah are number 2, and LA Lakers are number 5. So they're efficient. Yeah. They're scoring decently, and they're efficient with what they're scoring. Rebounding, Utah and LA are both number 2 and 4. What's interesting with that is that offensive rebounding, not much. Defensive rebounding, way up. So they're not giving the other team other opportunities to score. Yeah. So defensively, they're set. All these teams. And they're not particularly good assists. I mean, both LA teams are in the middle of the board. Utah is 22 in assists, so they're not passing all that much. So you can tell that they're kind of going through their stars. So you got, Kawhi and Paul George, LeBron and AD, and then you got Donovan Mitchell on the Utah Jazz. Yeah. So what do we think about that? West starting to heat up. How's it gonna go for the rest of the season, do you think?
I mean, I'm really happy that Utah are actually showing to their potential. Like, I've been watching, especially this week, watching them closely. They're not their games. They are playing really well. Pelicans, the big Golden State, no matter, they've been playing really well defensively, and the confidence is really high. and I'm glad that they're actually meeting that potential where they are pretty much on par with the two LA teams. Clippers this year have been way better. I mean, I know they're playing more consistently and there's no more load management, but Kawhi and Paul George actually seeming to get their sets in, understand each other better. You know, they're still trying to shake off what happened last season. And the Lakers, they just seem unbeatable away for some reason. Like the Lakers squad was really good this year in terms of the fact they can get points from KCP, Caruso, Markeith. Even in in the Bucks game, it was close, and then they got three sets in a row where Trez had a short defender on him, and because of that, they were able to go up by 7. They get 7 points in 3 positions purely because they were able to use their brain and work out to do that. I think Lakers going to top the conference. I probably think Utah might come second, but I think these are teams in the West where.
You think these are going to be the top 3 teams?
I think these are going to be the top 3. I think they're the teams who are from the start promoting defense, promoting efficiency. They look like everything they're doing is set up for can we keep getting better into the postseason? Whereas other teams like Dallas is kind of like figuring it out. Luka's trying to work out his role and how to really lead this team and help everyone else get better. Golden State are a bit iffy. Denver's kind of up and down. Like these 3 seem like the teams that, if it carries on like this, will be the teams that we look at as the favourites to go out of the West.
Well, yeah. I mean, LA, they this offseason they got stronger, adding Schroeder and Montrezl Harrell. They're both amazing 6 men, like amazing. As a tribute, Schroeder scored 25 points for them at some point this week. The Jazz, they've had the same core for 3 seasons now. They've pretty much been I think the only notable addition has been Mike Conley, and they need extra playmaking. It seems to have worked out for them. They're definitely performing as a team, especially defensively. They went out in the first round last season against Denver. Funny you should mention Denver as well. Like they started off weird, but they're going up and down. Like they're not very consistent for some reason. I'm not sure why that is, but they're not very consistent. But Utah, I think they went off to a bit of a slow start at the start of the season, and then they've obviously on this 8-game winning streak now. I don't know. They've not exactly been easy games either. You got the LA Clippers too. So, the thing about this LA Clippers team is now it's given me shades of what happened to the Miami Heat team in 2011. Like this Clippers team happened in 2020, where they didn't. And I mean, they didn't make it to the finals, but they didn't perform when they should have. Yeah. Like the Miami Heat didn't in the NBA Finals, which is one that they were heavily favored for. They even had a 2-1 lead at some point, I think. But it's giving me shades of that. Like they're out now. They know. Unlike last season, when they felt like they thought that they already earned a finals appearance before the season even started. Like you had Patrick Beverley and Lou Williams in that video in Las Vegas casino, just like, yeah, we won, and like we own the league. You got Patrick Beverley saying to Steph Curry that it's his league now. Okay, sure. I do, but there's a difference between confidence and being.
It wasn't even
delusional.
his team, let alone his league. But yeah.
Yes. But it gives me shades of that. It feels like now they've lost Montrezl Harrell, but they got Serge Ibaka, and Ibaka had some good games for them this week. Ibaka's been great on the glass and stuff, and Ibaka already has that chemistry with Kawhi. They both won a championship together in Toronto, so that's good for them. I reckon Clippers might actually fulfill their potential this year if they stay hungry, which a loss like that, like they would do, If it's but it's the regular season, and they performed in the regular season. We yet to see how they perform in the playoffs. Well, we have, and it wasn't very good in the first round against Dallas, and definitely not in the second round against Denver. The Jazz, they lost to Denver in that first round, but looking at them now, they look like they could make the NBA Finals. But I don't see either team taking on LA. I don't think LeBron is in first gear right now. Like he's not trying.
Well, something to so obviously he had his biggest points total against Giannis and the Bucks on Thursday. That's not an accident.
Yeah, almost as if trying to send a message.
Yeah, that's not an accident. That was okay, you may have won the MVP twice, but when you come over here, it's me in it. And I think a lot of it was AD spoke about it a lot after that Bucks win, where he said that their main focus right now is getting the new guys who've come in. So Trez, Dennis the Menace, Gasol, like getting all these guys in together just so that they can, adapt to the Lakers style of playing basketball. Obviously, with the shortened, season and not much of a preseason, they're basically looking on these games as tune-up games for, to get everyone used to each other. And when you look at that and the fact that they've used these games where they're basically taking it as a warm-up to go like 9-0 away, and then you look at the fact that they already won the title, and then they added onto it Dennis Schroeder, who now he's given LeBron a break in terms of ball handling and carrying the ball and playmaking. And, he's taken over that kind of Rondo role, but, with kind of more weapons to him. He's got less experience, but he's got more weapons. And, he can be trusted to go drop 25 in these regular season games. You combine it with Gasol, who, can literally, he is,
Marc Gasol, former defensive player of the year, Marc Gasol.
I mean, if you remind LeBron of that, he will get a little upset. And then, you've got Markieff coming still there. KCP is still there. KCP is a player who loves to just fulfill his role. He kind of knows how to get open, get those threes. He performs the daggers for LA, and he knows his role, and he does it so well. Then you combine that with the fact that Alex Caruso seems to be improving. Kuzma's still, Kuzma's got a role and he knows what he's doing now. And then you've got the fact that that's anchored around LeBron and AD to the point that they're a good team if only one of them plays. And then when the two of them play, it just feels like it's really hard to stop them consistently for a whole game. They took their foot off the gas against the Warriors, but they came right back and beat the Bucks. So it's like they look like a juggernaut in that division, which, I want to see them carry on to
their division. Their division is fucking difficult. They have not only the other LA team, they've got Golden State, they've got Phoenix in that team in there, and they've got who else? Who else in the Pacific? There's someone else. There's two others. There's LA Clippers, Phoenix, Sacramento. Okay, never mind. There's Sacramento and there's Golden State.
It's five.
That's it. Yeah. Yes, there is. Okay, that's it. So it's literally just Sacramento, which is probably not a playoff-bound team. Now, I feel bad for Sacramento because you play the most games against your division, and if all the rest of the teams are good,
then you're playing a lot.
You're going to be. No matter, Sacramento in a different division, let alone on the Eastern Conference, could probably make the playoffs. But they're stuck playing LA and LA Clippers 4 times a year. No, that's almost 8 losses already. You could probably chalk that up to 6 losses already. Like, give them a chance, give them like a win each. But no.
I think what's interesting to me about the West is the drop off between the top 3 and the rest. But
the rest of the West, they just seem they're not in tune. Dallas, which they were off to a good start, and then they've just like this last week after Luka Doncic's comments, they've kind of just not been that consistent at all.
Is there anyone in the top 3 who you think might challenge those 3?
Let me have a look at. I need to look at the standings because.
So what you did? I'll just read about. So you got Portland, Trailblazers.
I think. See, if I had to pick, if I had to pick anyone, I'd want to pick either Portland or
Yeah.
Phoenix, because the problems with those teams is that Portland just never seem to figure it out. They never seem to figure it out. I don't know what it is. But they never seem to figure it out. I don't know whether it's a defensive problem, an effort problem, a hustle problem. I doubt that from Lillard and CJ McCollum, but they've got Hassan Whiteside on that team, and if anything I know is that he's lazy. The problem with Phoenix is just the fact that they've added a massive, huge piece this season, and it takes time to get involved. And when you consider that these teams didn't have training camp, pretty much.
Yeah. But one thing on top of that,
the beginning of the season is their training camp essentially, because they're still.
Portland, I was gonna say Portland have been they've been unlucky now because CJ's out for a month. Joseph Nurkic is out for 6 weeks, and CJ's only going to be reevaluated in 4 weeks, so he's out for a minimum of a month. So he's not going to be back till March. Nurkic won't be back till March. I think a lot of their problems usually end up in the fact that even when they seem to get it right and the things are clicking, there is that one injury where it's like, okay, that, and now then sometimes it ends up being Dame alone. And I think the next month is going to be tough. If they can come through the next month and still win games and still perform well, and then they get to re-add McCollum and Nurkic, then they might have a chance of being a more consistent team that might trouble someone. I don't see that though. It's tough.
Well, we're on about winning streaks, and there is another team in the West that's on a winning streak, and that's the Memphis Grizzlies. They're on a 5-game win streak. Ooh. And they have the second best road record at 4-1. They've only lost once on the road, which is interesting. But let's backtrack. When we were talking about LA and their effort, obviously they're trying to get players involved. You can tell that when they're at home, they're not playing at 100%, but when they're away, and I know for a fact LeBron values away wins more than he does home wins. That's when their effort is really showing.
Yeah.
They're 9-0, they're unbeaten, so it's quite scary. You might win home court advantage off the LA Lakers, but are you going to actually win?
Yeah, it's
no one else really sticks out. I mean, Pelicans are underperforming so much. They're the second worst team in the conference. Are they the second worst team in the league? Give me 2 seconds to find out. No, they'd be the fourth worst.
Yeah,
the Detroit Pistons are by far the worst.
Yeah. Did you see the Did you see the clip of?
But they beat Miami. Did they beat Miami? Yes, they did.
Yeah, there was a clip I saw of Blake Griffin just getting roasted by a commentator for about 2 minutes. And I felt bad for him, but it was just.
The thing about Blake Griffin is I remember when he came into the league, and he came in with so much hype. He won Rookie of the Year. He won the Slam Dunk tournament. He was an All-Star in his rookie year. Even Ben Simmons, who was amazing his rookie year, who looked like a proper NBA player his rookie year, didn't make it. It was almost as if it's like, no, we shouldn't give a rookie All-Star points. Yeah. But they did that for Blake Griffin, and he's just not gotten better. I don't know whether it's because of injuries or situation, but he's not performed like a superstar. Yeah. But yeah, I feel bad for him because he's a great guy. He's hilarious. He does some stand-up comedy stuff, and he's hilarious.
Yeah. He's a great personality. So I feel bad for him in terms of he's clearly not where.
No, he doesn't.
He's not where his potential.
I wouldn't be surprised. I won't be surprised if he gets traded somewhere. I don't know where to, but I wouldn't be surprised. Let's move on out east. So there's not much gap between the the Philadelphia 76ers and the 7th placed Hawks, there's like 2 games. They're 3 games back. There's a lot of, it's very, very tight. And then you have the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
Although, Wizards, it's very hard to tell because with so many games that's been postponed, I think one team, I can't remember which team it was, but there was one team who literally had basically the next 4 games just erased from their schedule. But you've got the Pistons who are 3-13, and then you've got the Wizards who are 3-8. Like,
see, the problem with the Wizards is, but when you look at the
they're
Wizards,
5 games behind.
Yeah, but are they 5
Just
games behind?
played.
Yeah, I know.
No, they're 5 games behind in terms of games played.
I was gonna say, if you look at the Nets compared to the Wizards, if let's say the Wizards were to go on a 7-game run, they'd have played the same amount of the Nets, and they'd both be 10-8.
Yeah,
it's one of them, like, because of the way the games are structured and played, like it's they may have lost 8, but I'm like not that far back if you look at it. But yeah, it's the East. The 36ers are doing well. Which I expected. The Pacers are doing pretty good. They have got guys who like to come in. It's one of them. I think the East is going to be very tricky this season. Like, I think even another 10-15 games time, we're still not going to be any closer to knowing who's going to be in that player positions.
No, in all fairness, you're right.
You've got teams like the Raptors that out of playoff contention right now, but once they get everyone back, they could go on runs and it's going to be.
Yeah, Butler wasn't in the team, and they almost beat the Brooklyn Nets, which I mean, not surprising. I mean, Cleveland did it twice, and Cleveland had the worst offense.
It was second worst.
And second worst, and they ended up dropping over 120 points twice on them.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous on Brooklyn, who have no defense at all. They're literally like the NBA 2K team, and that's it. Bucks, which are starting to perform now, but they've lost 2 in a row.
Yeah.
The Celtics have lost 3 in a row. Like, they're starting to, show cracks. But you got the Cavs who are 3, Hawks who are 3. The Knicks had some good wins, and I don't know if they are anymore because there's been a game since then. But on Friday, I think I told you, but they have the number 1 ranked defense in the league, which is, they're coached by Tom Thibodeau. I'm not actually that surprised. I'm surprised it's taken like this quick to actually do that. Yeah. But mind you, they hired Tom Thibodeau just after the thing was cancelled, right? They had him for like a little. Because all the teams that missed the bubble had little mini bubbles and had their own little thing. I don't know if they had him around for that. If not, LA are definitely not LA. The Knicks are definitely like they're taking that advantage of that. The Cavs too. The Bulls.
So Tom Thibodeau came in on July 30th, so he came in the day before the original bubble started.
There you go.
He's had time, yeah.
He's had time,
And they look good. And the thing is, like, I'm very glad that New York Knicks aren't just a laughing stock. I also think, okay, it's dangerous to say this. I also think defensively, basically if Brooklyn don't sort out their stuff, in terms of defense, like, I really wouldn't be surprised if maybe in 10-15 games, those two are on similar records.
The way teams tend to want to do it is that you work out your defense first, and the offense will come. The offense will flow. It happened with the Miami Heat team in 2011. I mean, they started off 9-8, and then they ended up on massive run and ended up in the NBA Finals. I mean, it was really bad that they didn't win it because they were expected to win it against the Dallas Mavericks team at the time, which weren't that good.
Nope.
I mean, they had an amazing playoff run, but they weren't the favorite. The Miami Heat were the favorites, but the point is that the whole of the Miami Heat training camp was defense, and they focused on defense, and they knew the offense would come. It seems with the Brooklyn Nets, when you have Steve Nash, who currently has Mike D'Antoni on his right-hand side, who worked in Mike D'Antoni's offense, who is on record saying, defense, my My teams don't do that as a joke, but little bit of truth in that.
Yeah, there's a slither of truth in there.
The reason that it is a joke is because there's a little bit of truth in there, and that's what hit home. But I'm very. I didn't look at their. I didn't want to look at their defensive stats because they've only been together, like these players, all three of them together for 2 games.
Oh yeah,
because KD was out. KD was out this game. But what we can talk about. Let's talk about the Nets. Let's talk about them because there's something wrong with them. So I found it interesting that the last game that I had with Miami, they had KD for that game, but the one against Cleveland, was it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the one against Cleveland.
He missed the second Cleveland game because he played 50 minutes in the first one.
Yes, he did. But I wouldn't be shocked if it was a little bit of a experiment between to see if Harden and Kyrie could coexist. And it looks like it's proving difficult. It's proving difficult for them because they're both massive ball handlers. I don't want to reiterate everything I did the last episode. And if you're watching and wondering what I had to say about that, you should watch last episode. I went on a full 10, 15-minute rant. Check it out.
Went Super Saiyan crazy.
Yes,
but yeah, I think they
gone.
All I'm gonna say is I think the problem there, like obviously since before the trade we spoke about, how do you have 3 ball dominant players in the system, and we always spoke about the fact that someone had to give up the ball or be more off ball. I think the problem they've had is that James Harden wants this to work so bad because KD has his rings, Kyrie has his rings. KD has his ring, Kyrie has his rings. He's the one that doesn't have a ring. So in his mind, he's like, no, this is my team. I need to make sure it works. He made that big move going from the Rockets to the Nets. He knows that this was his move to get a ring. He knows he has to do it. So he's trying to be too passive. In that first game against the Cavs, having someone like Harden on 5 points at halftime, where he's shooting 4 times, he had 1 3 and 2 3 throws, isn't how you're going to get the best from James Harden.
He ended up with 21 on the second game and 12 against the Miami Heat. So he's deferring. He's decided he's deferring.
The problem is,
I thought Kyrie was too aggressive.
In the first game, I understood it because Kyrie had just come back. It was against the Cavs. He even got a video tribute. It was like I was like, okay, it's okay to give him the ball and say, okay, you're back, have a, getting your shots. But after halftime, when they realized it wasn't working, they needed to switch. They needed to say, look, okay, Harden, you need the ball. Okay, when Kyrie's shooting more shots than KD and Harden, you really do have a problem there with the offense. And also, if you've got Harden out there and he's not getting the ball and he's not affecting you attackingly, then all you've got there is someone who isn't the best defender. So you've just got someone who is not helping you offensively and then not helping you defensively. So you're just leaving him out there to do nothing. He's trying, he's managed to help the team in other ways. He has got his assists. He's been trying to get rebounds. He's been trying to help Kyrie, and space on the floor. But he's given up too much. He's
a ball handler. The way he gets his points is attacking the basket, getting fouled if he misses, making a bucket if he's left wide open. He's slippery. He's tricky. That's how he gets his points. He can shoot a good 3. Yeah, he's not the best 3-point shooter, but he shoots a lot of them. That he could probably do better with that. Kyrie's a very similar player, but Kyrie doesn't get nearly enough fouls. But
so I just want to look at in 2 games before Kyrie came back, James Harden scored 32 and 34. He was 8 and 18 against Orlando, and he was 13 of 25 against Milwaukee Bucks. In the game since Kyrie came back, he shot 14 against Cleveland in a double overtime game and got 21 points. He shot 14 in the second game where there was no KD and got 19 points. And yesterday against the Heat, he shot 8 times, scored 2 and got 12 points. It's the fall off with Kyrie there, without Kyrie and with Kyrie, to his shot taking, his ball handling, the way he's able to create the pass and move. The differences are so high, and that's something that a team you have to work out. And I think if I'm Kyrie, I would have looked at that and said, look, to get the best out of James Harden, he needs the ball. Like, so I should give him the ball. And even against when KD was out, I thought that was the game to give Harden the ball. Like, if we've seen that James and KD can work together because they've done it, and then this was a game to see if Kyrie and Harden could work together, and they didn't. They just literally was tense. It was okay. Kyrie basically saw he didn't have KD and just took more shots or more wasted possessions. There were more turnovers. It was, and obviously it's something that can be worked on. I'm sure they can work out that chemistry and they can work on the sets, but fundamentally, it's the core of it is wrong. Like it's three people who need the ball and there's only one ball, and it's like, what do you do in that situation?
Well, yeah, like I said, like the one person who is gonna get his no matter what is KD. He can score with the ball, without the ball. He's the most talented scorer in this league right now.
Yeah, he's a.
I don't think there's a better scorer in this league right now.
While I think while I will go to back that LeBron's a better player, there's no one who scores like KD with his wingspan and height. It's almost impossible to stop him if he wants to score.
Inside, outside, ball handling, the defense, the end as well.
Offensively, he's got the total package, and it's practically unstoppable. Basically, if KD scores 35 on you as a team, you just have to accept that he scored 35 and try and stop the other people around him or get him the ball less. That's the only way. Who's very. It reminds me of what people used to say about Kobe Bryant with the old LA teams when it was just him and a bunch of scrubs. Was just like, look, Kobe is going to get his. Yeah.
The best we can do is slow down everyone else.
Yeah.
Because Kobe can't win a game on his own, and neither can KD. But he needs one of Kyrie and James Harden. But you can't have them clashing, which they're doing.
So we've just seen KD in a big three system with the Warriors, where he was able to get his
off-ball movement. Because Steph and Clay don't need the ball. They don't. Yeah. Draymond needs the ball, but when it's just Draymond, but Draymond's not scoring, KD can do all that. It fit into that system exceptionally.
And he was able to fit into that system, and because Steph and Clay were able to, Clay would be able to just do that catch and shoot, whereas the fact Clay would be able to
ridiculous. He only touched when he only touched the ball, no, it was like he only dribbled the ball 7 dribbles and 60 points.
Yeah, so that meant that Clay was always able to, in a shot clock, not have the ball for 22 seconds of the time. Like, he didn't need, if you threw it to him, it was in his hands, out his hands, shot. Whereas with Kyrie and Harden, it's a lot of I'm gonna do a move. I'm gonna do it here.
Almost the polar opposite.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And
it's almost the polar opposite.
Obviously, the thing about KD, when they made that big three, and he came to Golden State already had a system. He was able to come in, and they were able to big 3.5. But yeah, basically the Warriors super team. They were able to come in and adapt their already formed system around KD, and it changed the system a bit. And it didn't always. Some of them went like Draymond openly complained that a lot of the times that KD wouldn't move the ball quick enough, and but they accepted that that's KD and that's how they're going to play. With this Brooklyn team, it's what is that style of play? Like, what are you going to do? Because if it's just going to be give the ball to Kyrie, and then if Kyrie doesn't get it, he's going to throw it to Harden with 3 seconds to go and hope that Harden can just get a catch and shoot. It's not going to be the best. Like, we've seen that. All I was to say is that we've seen that we've seen Harden when he's playoffs and he's had to shoot a lot of threes, and he did it against Golden State where he missed a lot. Like, he has that tendency to not be. He has that tendency where he can go cold from three, and normally the way he gets through that is by having the ball and then going inside and getting foul throws, and then those free throws are normally how he can keep himself going. If he doesn't have the ball, he can't do that. He might just end up shooting, missing, and then that's it for him.
Well, Kyrie has played with LeBron James. He won a championship with LeBron James, and they had a system which I don't know if you've watched the video, but there was a little series. Yeah, the Two Kings,
Yeah,
that little video series which had Kobe Bryant analyzing stuff, which is phenomenal, by the way. If you
yeah.
want to learn anything about basketball, watch Kobe Bryant analyze anything.
Mhm.
It's spectacular. But it was a Two Kings offense, and it's basically throughout one possession of the Cavs, it went through one of or both of these Two Kings,
Yeah.
Kyrie and LeBron James. It would
Hmm.
circle around to them somehow. The players found their man. It go through them too, and it works as a tandem. It doesn't work as a three.
No, it doesn't. And the thing is, in that
And even
system,
then, LeBron, LeBron is a much better playmaker than James Harden. I don't
100%.
think I'm going out on a limb by saying that.
That's,
I don't even think I think James Harden is a good, decent playmaker. I don't think he's great. And same with Kyrie. And the fact that Kyrie and LeBron were able to coexist
hmm
is down to the fact that LeBron can play make.
yeah,
He does all the little things that a lot of players don't see. The Draymond Green effect, if you will.
sure.
But obviously, LeBron is LeBron, and he actually shows up in the box score as well, which just shows you how great LeBron James is. Um,
Uh,
uh, so, Kyrie had that. James R. Harden isn't LeBron James. He isn't Draymond Green, which is a player that KD has played with.
mhm.
Kyrie isn't a playmaker to the same extent of Draymond Green or LeBron James. So someone either needs to develop the playmaking skills or someone needs to defer. I don't see this Brooklyn team making past the Eastern Conference Finals if they make it there, because they have to contend with the good defensive teams before they get
Yeah.
there.
See, the problem for me is I'm looking at because this is a short season. We've already been like some teams have already played like what 18 games, which
Yeah.
means
Well, if you
in a
if you think
seven
about it
game
this way, the Nets don't have a defense, and their offense can be stunted
season. Hmm.
just by the existence of James Harden and Kyrie on the same court. Their
Yeah,
offense can be stunted that way. The only way it isn't stunted is if KD is playing, because no matter
yeah.
what happens, KD can make it finish.
And the thing is, when you're looking at teams like
But
the Cavs, who are Colin Sexton's dropping points on you, then you look at the fact they went to Miami. Miami didn't have Jimmy Butler, but Bam got his career high
bam,
points.
exactly, exactly.
Looking
That
at
was
these,
another point I was trying to
I'm,
make.
I'm saying, okay, so that to me that suggests, look, if I'm Joel Embiid, if I'm Giannis, if I am, Tatum, who can get inside, I'm looking at that Brooklyn team and saying, wow, look, they may be able to, if they can score that many points, we know we can stop them, we can slow them down, and we can also score easy points on them. Like as good as like watching them play, unless they suddenly develop some defensive grit, and suddenly they play what out of this world defense, they're going to concede 115, 120 a night, and that means that it's going to be on KD, Harden, and Kyrie to score maybe 80 to 90 a night between the three of them. Otherwise, they're going to lose. And obviously it's a case of like, can they do that? And can they do that with only one ball? Because if you're keeping James Harden cold, what are you expecting him to do? Are you expecting him to line up in the fourth quarter? This is the man who has like Kyrie left. Kyrie left the Cavs because he wanted to, have his own team and went to Boston. You know, that didn't work out because he got injured, and then Tatum pretty much basically formed the better talent, and that core were better without him than they were with him. KD's come over, like these people who are used to leading their offenses and leading and being the number one option. When you got three of those guys, you have to come together as a team and say, look, okay, like this game's yours, let you have it, or like work out a way to balance out the shots. Because when I'm looking at Kyrie on 28 shots, KD 25, Harden 12, I'm like, that's not how you're going to. If you're Kyrie, especially, you have to say, look, I need to get the best out of you two because I know what I can do with the ball. And you probably have to say, look, Harden, here's the ball. Like, let me control it, and I'll give it to you, and then you get to go down. Basically, you have to make the defense think, and they're not doing that. Kyrie doesn't get his one-on-one dribble off, then he's just like, oh, okay, cool. I'm just gonna pass it off and hope you guys get a shot off. And it's so predictable that teams can stop it, and then teams know they can get second chance points on you. Third, at one point they were getting third chance points on them. Like it's
yeah,
I was just one of them ways. It's when you watch basketball and you watch it, it's just like you can see there's such big warning signs there that this isn't going to work if they don't fix it. But then you have people like Kyrie coming out like, "Nah, don't worry, we'll work it out. We've got this. We'll be where the best of the best are."
I mean, they remind me of the Clippers from last season, where they felt like they were obligated to, they were destined to be in the finals when they're not. They're unproven. The fact that that Kyrie and KD have been there for this is their second year at Brooklyn. They never played a game together.
No.
Like they were unproven and they weren't very good together. But let's move on before we talk too much about this. So Bam scored a career high, 41 points, but he wasn't the only person who scored a career high against Brooklyn Nets this week. And that was Colin Sexton, who scored 42 points in a win. And then the following game, at least, I don't know if it was the following day or the following day, but the following game, he scored 25 points. Now, this was the Cleveland team without Darius Garland, who has been great. But I do have a few things about it. So Colin Sexton, he is scoring nearly 27 points a game this season with 2.5 rebounds, 4 assists. Really good. And he's not even just, he's not just chucking it up and seeing what sticks. He's shooting 52% from the field, and he's shooting 46.8% from 3.
Jesus.
That's Steph Curry numbers. Steph Curry numbers from 3. He's currently at a 2.5 player efficiency rating. For everyone who doesn't know, player efficiency rating is basically how great you are of a player. 15 is average. Colin Sexton is 22.5. He is 50% over that. So he's been really good. Really, really good. And he's for some people, he's at the top of the most improved player list, which, yeah, I see it. I mean, I think second would probably be Chris Wood, but Colin Sexton is definitely up there, and he's making the Cavs legit. I mean, they're on a 3-game win streak, and he's looking really good. And you can probably attribute this to a few things. So I did a little research, and I didn't have much time to do it, but I found out that this season he officially changed his position from point guard to shooting guard. So it's like he's embraced that shooting guard role. He's just He's not really a facilitator. That's more Darius Garland's thing, which has worked out, Sexland. But they haven't had him there. Also, there was a massive change in head coaching staff. So they ended up with JB Bickerstaff, who is an amazing defensive coach. He's never really been an official head coach anywhere. He was an associate for Houston and then was an interim head coach there. Told them that he didn't want that position, so he went to Memphis and became an associate there. And then he became an interim head coach there as well for a bit. And then he left them, became a Cavs associate, and then this year he became their official head coach. This is his first real head coaching position, but he has had a lot of experience, and he was the associate there, so he knows Colin Sexton. He's been there. He's seen the game. He's seen his game, and JB Bickerstaff you'll hear everyone throughout the league. I think he worked. Did he work under Greg Popovich? I'm not sure, but he definitely worked in the Houston. I think he's one of the reasons that when Houston actually started getting success with like Chris Paul and stuff, like you could attribute JB Bickerstaff with a defensive plan that they implemented. I think that's been a huge thing for Colin Sexton, and Cleveland in general. But Colin Sexton, because he was like, he's the one who's like, you should change the point guard, you should change the shooting guard, this is what we're going to do. This is a game plan, and it's worked out. And Colin Sexton, he could be an all-star. In fact, I wouldn't be. He'd probably be all-star this year. I wouldn't be surprised.
With the numbers he's putting up, he could do, yeah. And I think
The numbers he's putting up, he might be. He'd be first ballot. First ballot all-star. He'd be starting. But other than that, I don't see anyone else really going for most improved player. Just
really,
Chris Wood.
Chris Wood, maybe. It's apart from that, like, yeah, I feel like he's probably gone with. If he carries on with this, I feel like he definitely has a lock on most improved player, and the way he's been playing. And I know he missed. I think for me, the fact he was able to miss a few games because he was out for 4 or 5 games in the middle, and then he's come back, and I think his first game back was the Nets game. So for him to come back and still be on that level of where he was before, it means that this is consistency for him. Like this is. And I'm
This seems like a consistent level that he can perform at. And not only that, but you're right, he missed the middle games. So Cleveland started off really well, and then they had a little lull, and then now they're performing again. They're on a 3-game win streak. The common denominator there, Colin Sexton. And they beat Brooklyn. I mean, this is like, which one matters? Was Colin Sexton really good, or was Brooklyn defense really bad? It's a bit of both.
Yeah. But I mean, when you look at it, like even though the defense was bad, like he's still hitting shots in Kyrie's face. Like it's he still has to get his points. It's not like
it's not has to get it. It's not going to be the easiest thing.
It's not given to him. He started to earn it. It's just.
But this is also this is a Cleveland team that isn't playing with Darius Garland. Now you put Darius Garland in there, and he's a decent enough playmaker, and then you got Colin Sexton in there, and then you add the fact that they have such good inside presence with the amount of centers that they have. Yep. Kevin Love, which you could probably move to power forward. In all fairness, he can shoot a 3. He's pretty. He's more of a low post player, but Kevin Love, he's really good. They got Jarrett Allen in that trade that sent Harden over to Brooklyn, which is a steal for them. They got JaVale McGee, who's a great defensive player. He's won championships with Golden State and LA. Yep. This Cleveland team is not to be trifled with. I reckon they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they'll be higher than 4th, but I think they could end up being 5th.
Yeah,
I think they could make a run.
It's an issue, especially with Sexton, K-Love, Drummond, like all them together. Like if that's
with any team, they have the chance to win 2 or 3 games against like a Bucks team. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's that, and then I think for our last topic, really of the week is so Steph Curry. Coming second on the all-time 3-point scorers list. Now, do you know how much 3-pointers he's on right now?
1,600 and...
Nope.
Okay.
Double, nearly double. So Curry currently sits at 2,562. He beat Reggie Miller, and he is now second. In first place, you got Ray Allen with 2,973. So Steph Curry is 411 behind. So he's not going to do it this season because at the moment he's making 4 a game. He's attempting 11 a game, which is interesting for me. This is also one of the first times in his career, if not the first time in his career, that for the season, I mean, this probably won't last, but he's under 40% from 3, Steph Curry, right now. I don't see that lasting, but I also don't see him attempting 11 3-pointers a game lasting. But if Curry played every other game this season and made 4 threes a game, he still wouldn't have enough. He'd need 100 games to do that. So it won't be this season. It might be next season. In fact, but he is going to pass him. Fingers crossed, barring anything goes wrong with Steph Curry, so he doesn't have to retire early or something like that, Steph Curry will become number one.
which I think is.
I think we should just take the time to, appreciate how much Steph Curry has actually changed the game in terms of 3-pointers. Like when Steph Curry came into the league, it was more of a 3-pointers, they're great when you really need them. They weren't really shooting all that much. But now, 3-pointers is a huge part of the game. Huge. Some teams are shooting more threes than they are going inside.
We are seeing LeBron James take logo threes. That isn't an accident. That is a fact that the game is moving towards the three. You're looking at players like Trae Young. You're looking at like all these players like.
Well, it's not moving towards the three. It is the three.
But I mean, like, it's so moving. You're seeing guys move towards like, can I shoot the three? So when you think about it, really, you've got players like.
Hey, look at Bam, who scored a three on Brooklyn yesterday.
Yeah, like in Zion's first game, he came in. Was it 3 straight threes? Like it's Steph Curry as a 3-point shooter, is something that like I think at first it was I don't think it was appreciated, but now when you look at it, it's this man kind of changed what. Like, you got to the point where you couldn't defend. A lot of times, you could leave a guard and you'd stay on the 3-point line and say, "Okay, you're gonna have to come here. You're coming to the line." The amount of times you've seen Steph Curry pull up from ranges that aren't even fathomable and still hit them, like he deserves to be that number one on the list purely for the way he's changed his game. He is the greatest 3-point shooter in NBA basketball.
He's the greatest. He's the greatest shooter in NBA history, without a doubt. I don't think anyone would deny that. I think it's a mixture of lots of things. Like, when it comes down to it, 3 is greater than 2.
2, yeah.
So you want to score more points. The aim of the game is to score more points than the other team.
Yeah.
And when you have a player who, does it as efficiently as Steph Curry did throughout his entire career. But then when you add the fact that Golden State made a system that was so efficient in scoring the 3 and making opportunities, that they won games, but not just that, but the excitement that Steph Curry gave to hitting threes. And, there was a time where people would look forward to the slam dunk contest on All-Star Saturday. The slam dunk contest was the main event. The 3-point shot is now like the premier kind of event of the night for then now. And like, I think that goes down to Steph Curry, the way he makes his threes, the way his ball handling, how he gets loose players, his off-ball stuff. He just makes shooting the 3 look so exciting, and that's been a big deal because it's made it go viral. It's brought more fans in, Everyone, he's on that level of like people who don't know basketball know Steph Curry. They know who LeBron James is, and they know Michael Jordan. They know Kobe Bryant. They know who Steph Curry is. Yeah, he's on that level with those. He's changed the game.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about Steph, you just mentioned, is that I love that he could shoot. He can shoot the 3, but you can't stop him shooting the 3. And it's been one of my favorite things to watch. Is like, he only needs a little bit of space, and he's a tiny bit of space, and he will shoot that 3 right on you, and it's so beautiful to watch.
There was a series. I don't know if it's ongoing now, but it's like a sports science series, and it basically looked at Steph Curry's shot and the quickness of his release and the angle of it makes it near impossible for anyone to, number one, react to it in time.
Yeah,
it's like from the catch motion to the release is like 0.4 seconds. That's how quick this man can shoot. He shoots quick and efficiently.
Yeah.
Babyface assassin.
I also want to something, actually, because as I'm talking about Steph, there's something, I don't get my chest. I don't think it's talked about enough that I think Steph was robbed of his Finals MVP. That
Which
the
one?
Iguodala one, the one that Iguodala
Which
won,
one?
the one that Iguodala won. I don't think it's
Okay.
talked about enough. That in that series, Steph was the fact that Iguodala won that MVP based off the idea
In
that he
all
slowed
fairness,
LeBron
in
down.
all fairness, it's because of Iguodala and that. Well, you know what? If you're really gonna do it, you should give the MVP award to Steve Kerr for putting Iguodala in the starting lineup. So,
I just
technically,
because I was rewatching that series and so I was rewatching some of the games because I was sat here. I was like, you know what? Sometimes when I can't sleep, I just sit here and I'm like, let me just watch something classic. And I was watching back that finals, and I was like, this guy. I was like, how did he not win this MVP, the finals MVP? And I mean, I know he didn't care because you won the championship, but I was watching that back, like the threes he was dropping, the points he was dropping, the way he was. And then I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, obviously we talk about Steph. Obviously he has been in a great team, and he's had the Clay, he's had Iggy, he's had KD, but he's the fact that you've never been really able to stop Steph. They're look how happy everyone in the league was when everyone got injured, and then Steph was out last season because it was the first time in the league they had to face Golden State and didn't have to face Steph because they didn't have to face that consistent 3-point, and that's why they came. How bad were they last season? And now this year, even they played the Lakers.
They were
the
the worst
Lakers
team in the league last season.
The Lakers were like, oh, it's Golden State. They were like, oh, we've got this. And then Steph said, wait, do you remember who I am? And then just started hitting them out. And they're like, oh no, 19 points can turn to 5 points in 3 or 4 possessions, and it's so great.
It's great.
Also,
it's great.
I hope this video can play because
okay,
it's my favorite thing from this week, and I hope it works.
Okay, it's good.
Wardell, why is Kelly so good at putback dunks?
Damn it! Did the audio not play? But yeah, that
I don't know because it jumps for me.
That look from Steph Curry as the commentator asks him, Wardell, is my favorite thing I've seen.
Yeah.
Because I have no idea why you would call him Wardell.
Yeah, it's one of the. It's like one of them parallel universe things. It doesn't seem right. It's like saying Decadent. Who does that, really?
But yeah, that's Steph Curry Wardell.
Who does that?
It was made me laugh because it was just like, did you see the question after it was so funny? The question after it was like, why is he? Why is he so good at put back dunks? And he was just like, why is tall person good at? Oh, it was so funny.
I'm sure. When Steph eventually beats, Ray Allen, we'll have an episode dedicated to Steph Curry and his effect on the game of basketball.
Is it OKC? I always remember that 1-3 where it's it's the Mike Breen bang where it just doesn't take the time out and then shoots them in the halfway line and scores, and I'm like, what is?
No, I remember that one night in Madison Square Garden where basically Steph Curry made his name. So, but yeah,
I've got that face safe. I'm using it for every podcast. It's like, who the fuck are you talking to? But yeah, I think when he breaks that record, it'd be great to break that down in more depth and look at that because that is.
It would be right, but we're coming on. This is our fourth quarter. Davian, who is your player of the week? We'll just go player of the week. Let's not go east and west. Let's just talk about player. Let's talk about player. Who's your player of the week?
Kind of went. Okay, I'm gonna go Donovan Mitchell.
I respect that. He's been playing phenomenally.
Yeah. The way he's able to.
And you know what's really good is that in his playoff round against Denver, he was scoring the ball, but it almost felt like it was a one-man show, and now
Yeah.
this Utah team, it's like everything's coming together. But you can definitely tell, Donovan Mitchell is like the leader, and he's taking.
So,
He doesn't feel. It's like he's learned that he doesn't have to score 50 points a game to do it, but we know he's capable of it.
And I think he
And
can do it.
This week's proved it. I mean, they're winning 8. They're winning 8 in a row.
So yeah, it's the winning streak combined with the fact that I watched how he reacted when the Pelicans went up by 13. He was able the way he was able to bring that team back together to say, look, like stop. Like he kind of he controlled that basketball, he managed to get people so hot in that second quarter that it didn't matter what the Pelicans did, everyone was able to shoot, and then he was able to get them easy buckets. It was beautiful to watch, and the player he's developed into, especially after last year, you can tell that he's learned from what happened last year. Like it was, and as you said, like it was all well and good that he could shoot out, and a lot of the time that Utah-Denver series became a shootout, like it was 40 points on one side from one player, 50 on the other, and then Denver,
it was dull though. It was good to see.
It was a great series, but the real difference was that Denver had more
weapons. It was Murray versus Donovan Mitchell. It's Jamal Murray versus Donovan Mitchell. No one cared about anyone else.
Yeah.
Go.
But yeah, I'm just saying that the development now to the start of the season where he's got Utah winning games consistently and he's playing well and he doesn't have to score the 50, but he can, means that like you're looking at a player who really can be dangerous and a team who are doing really well. And obviously after the last season where we thought that maybe Gobert would have to get traded or like there was those chemistry issues, those two seem to have worked it out. That team looks really good and it's a credit to him. Like he is really controlling his team and leading it well. So yeah,
it is.
Who's yours, Chris?
I'd be amiss if I weren't going to say Colin Sexton. I thought you were going to pick him, and I was going to go for Donovan Mitchell. You did. We didn't. So I'm going with Colin Sexton for the reasons as previously established. 42 points against the Brooklyn Nets, career high. But I doubt that's going to be the last time we see like that Colin Sexton scored a career high this season.
He outscored the Kyrie on less minutes. He was on point, and I know that even realistically, if the foul hadn't got overturned in the first game, he would have been shooting the free throws to win it in normal time, let alone double overtime. So to come back from that, where you're like, okay, we could have lost, we could have beat them, and then he was like, wait, don't worry, I've got this. Brooklyn went up by a few scores, and he went, wait, you do think I am? Give me this ball. I was like, Kyrie, go and stop him, and he was like, nope, over your head, and I was like, I can't. I was like, and especially with no Garland as well. That is no Garland,
exactly.
No Kevin Love.
This guy. But okay, so we got Colin Sexton and that. Who is your team of the week?
Probably the Clippers.
Say that again.
Oh God, the Clippers. That hard to say.
Clippers.
Yeah, that hard to say.
They're winning 6 in a row, and it's good. I mean, Paul George, Kawhi, they're a tandem.
They're playing great basketball, and I think this is the LA Clippers I wanted to see last season in terms of there's actual, I wanted to see the actual attacking sets, the proper defense, gelling together, more chemistry. When things aren't going well, when other teams are going on runs, they're stopping them now. Like, it's the little things there where I'm like, okay, this Ty Lue Clippers with Kawhi playing every game, like, okay, you guys are working things out, and this week they have been just on point. And I know that obviously, they beat like Sacramento and stuff like that, and they're going to take their games they should win. But last year they were losing those type of games because they came into things overconfident. This week was like they're unbeaten. Second in the West? Like
no, third.
Third. Oh wow, Utah passed them. But yeah, they're
on the same record as the second though. Pretty much the same record. It's just because they have. I think the conference record is worse. So
so joint in terms of like games, but the way they are playing, they now look like the squad. They now look like the team they were trying to be last season, and they've done well. Serge Ibaka was a good pickup for them. And when it gels, they look great. Obviously, we need to see more to see what's going to happen if they're not playing well, but while they're playing well now, Clippers. This is
Clippers.
okay. So you got your team of the week.
I'm going with a team with the same record as them, 12-4 Utah Jazz, who are on 8 in a row. 8 in a row, and they're not just they're blowing teams out, and not even doing it offensively. They're doing it defensively, and that's scary. Because, especially when it comes to the playoffs, because they're going to be defensively ready. They've got Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Joe Ingles, Mike Conley. Yes, Mike Conley. This team, it's been fantastic this week, and I don't see it. So I think this is maintainable. I think the Lakers are not going to find it as easy as they originally thought, because at the start of the season, everyone thought that, the LA Lakers was the team above everyone else. No one else was really making much noise. But, Jazz and you mentioned the Clippers, they're both only just half a game behind LA.
I think
and
Lakers have improved a lot, but the Jazz and Clippers have improved too, and they're right there with them.
Uh-huh.
And obviously, I think
well, if Jazz and Clippers win, they both go above the Lakers. They both go above. So it's one of them.
And that makes me want to see Lakers, Clippers, and Lakers Jazz. I can't wait. Excited.
Right, so that was this week's episode of Timeout. But let's talk about next week. So next week we have a guest again. Our guest is going to be Richard Thomas. He's a Milwaukee Bucks fan. So we'll probably be talking a bit about them. But also, I'm going to start a new segment, Davian. It's going to be called Chris Explains, because I realized a lot of our friends and a lot of people watching this podcast probably are trying to get into the NBA. Our talk with Daniel last week, it made me realize just, how many new people are coming into it. So I thought, you know what? I'll use my expertise. Maybe I explain things that, maybe just your average viewer won't know about. So I asked Richard what he wants to learn about, and he brought up technical fouls. So next week, we're going to be talking about technical fouls. And if you think you already know all about technical fouls, then don't worry, because I'm going to have some very interesting stories for you, like how Dwight Howard ended up getting suspended for doing free throws, why the NBA only made a rule for if a team with 6 players scores, an interesting development which led to one player called Eric Money, who scored for 2 teams, for both teams in one game. That happened, and I'll explain all those next week. But for now, I think we need to take time out.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think this is gonna be a bridge to make. Obviously, if you've not watched basketball and you want to learn, this is the time to for us to make some more stuff more accessible. So just explain the little things, because basketball can be confusing with the stats and the.
Well, I've got ideas for. So Richard gave me a few more ideas. So goaltending, explain that a little bit.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I'll also mention how Shaq broke so many blackboards that they had to change the rules. I'll mention that next week. That's next week. This has been the Timeout Podcast with CJ.
DC.
Timeout.
Just do it. And we out.